Very good. Welcome, everybody. And now let me introduce all the way from Michigan, one of the highest points in Michigan, just below the UP, Amy Babinchak, our president from Harbor Computers.
Hey, everybody. So my goal today is to tell you a little bit about what we are sort of where we've been and where the organization is going, so that you know what you might be getting into if you decide to serve on a committee. Heretofore, this first year of our organization, right, everyone who is serving was appointed. Right, we had to get this organization off the ground, and so our year-long effort has been to create the necessary committees, to get charters for those committees, to get a charter for the organization itself, to develop our mission, vision, values. We're currently working on a code of ethics for the organization. Really, all those organizational things that are required to create a national society from the ground up, which has been a tremendous amount of work. So this year was really given over to organizing. And I'm hoping that in this next year that we will be changing our emphasis from organization to action, right? So instead of our committees forming up and deciding why they're here and what their purpose is, we want them to actually get busy and start doing stuff. And we're at the point of our organization, which this is a very hands-on kind of place, right? We do not have staff. We don't even have funding yet. So we are depending on the committee members to not only just serve on a committee and make decisions, but to actually participate in fulfilling the goals of the committee and performing the actions that will take them to those goals. So for the board, I really see us as shifting ourselves from creating things to really assisting in fundraising for this organization. And not everybody agrees with me, but I think that is a major responsibility of board members to bring in money for the club. And I really kind of see that as everyone's responsibility, but particularly those of us at the board level to use our influence to try to get that vendor program rolling, which we just announced recently. We do have the marketing committee, which is of course involved in the look of the club. They will be running membership drives and developing our presence on social media and even our presence at events, right? What's that going to look like? How do we want to represent ourselves? And we really have to start to get out there in force at events and let everybody know that we exist and build our membership up. We have a finance committee. The finance committee, of course, projects our expenses as an organization. We're a membership organization, a membership nonprofit type, I should say. That's a C6. The legislative committee has already started to move toward action. They are building educational materials for self-advocacy. And that is just now getting off the ground, and I expect that's really going to ramp up here in the next year. I'm expecting great things from them, and that is going to really allow us to be prepared to respond to local legislative initiatives that we know are coming and some that are already in progress. And then arguably the very most important committee that we have is the governance committee, right? The governance committee actually forms the other committees. They help the committees develop their charters and make sure the committees are fulfilling their charters. And they'll also be involved in any dispute resolution that happens to come up. This is very much a bottom-up organization. So this is not a situation where the board dictates what the committee should do. We want the membership to dictate what their membership organization does. So as a board, we chose early on to empower the committees to take action and be the face in the where everything springs from in this organization. So that is my grand summary of where we're at and where I hope this organization is gonna go next year.
All right, very good, thank you. And just a quick intro to the elections. So all of the positions in the organization are up for election. So the way that the bylaws are written, the individuals are elected to committees, and then the committee chooses their chair or board president. So each person will be elected to the committee, and then it's up to the committee to choose their secretary, treasurer, whatever they want. Most of them don't need treasurers, but whatever they need. If you look at nsitsp.org/elections, we've got a little timeline there. Basically, we're educating folks in July so that you can look around, see what's what, decide whether you want to run, prep your statements, that sort of thing. And then beginning August 1st, you'll be able to actually apply to run for office. The campaign itself is the first couple weeks in September, and then the voting is the 15th through the 23rd of September. And that's when we will go ahead and announce the elections. And if you have questions, put them into the chat. Also, if you came in late and you ask a question that's already been answered, it may be up in the chat that you can't see. So we'll be happy to repost links and so forth if necessary. So to run, you have to be a professional member, which is a paid member rather than a registered member. If you have not finished your professional membership, you should by now have roughly 1,000 emails from Jen reminding you to get that done. If you need help, get in touch with us and we'll see what we can do. But you know, I'd say if that's your sticking point, go look at your LinkedIn profile and find one of the people who's written something nice about you and say, hey, can you take that nice thing and put it on your letterhead so that I can upload it? It's really not a huge hurdle for a professional to get an endorsement from one of their clients. So to vote, you also need to be a professional member. So once the voting actually starts, only professional members will even be able to see the ballot. So, and you can vote once. So you can't go back in and change your vote because we're not keeping track of how you voted. We're only keeping track of whether you voted. If we were to allow you to change your vote, it would mean we would have a not anonymous election process. So, so make sure you know who the candidates are. And Kara is actually the web developer and sort of all around wrangler of problems here. So she's going to give us a bit of information about the website specifically and give us a little show and tell. So Kara, I will let you drive. Do I need to stop sharing at this point?
Hello. Yes. Why don't you stop sharing? And you might need to, let me see if I can automatically share or if you have to give me, let's see. I think that worked.
Yes.
Does everyone see the elections page?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do right now is to walk through the entire process from start to finish as if you want to run. So obviously, we're going to start at the elections page. And just real quick, if you're following along real time in your browser, you will notice that the form to file is actually available right now, but it doesn't actually start until August 1st. So if anyone decides to get ahead of ourselves and you go ahead and start to file today, note that that will be deleted so that we can have a fresh start on August 1st. So disclaimer. Okay, so you'll start here. If you decide that you want to run and you're not sure which committee or board you want to serve on, you can head over to the committees page. And this is going to just give you some information about what, for instance, the governance committee is all about. You can read through their objectives, the deliverables and outputs, and also the critical success factors, see if those things are resonating with you. And you can also view who the current committee roster is. And like Amy mentioned, everyone that's here has been appointed, not voted in. So all of the members that are listed in the committee rosters and the board of directors all have to run again. So just because you see a roster here, you still have an opportunity to serve if you're not yet. All right. And of course, you can go through and look at all of them, compare them, etc. Once you determine what you want to run for, you're going to come back to the election page. And beginning on August 1st, you're going to file for candidacy. And so I'm going to run through this now. I am not logged in at the moment. And so I get a note here that I need to be logged in and a professional member. If you are a professional member and you don't have your letters of recommendation uploaded, then you will get a notice that, hey, exactly that. You need to go ahead and upload either one or two letters. So I'm going to log in with a test account to go through the process. And in my test account, I'm a professional member who has submitted both letters. And so now I get access to the form and I just simply get started. Company name, right? Which committee are you running for? So there have been questions about this. So there are specific roles such as secretary and things of that nature. Those are voted on by whoever the current members of a committee, of whoever the current members are of that committee. So in this case, if you are wanting to hold a secretary seat or something similar, and you are elected into that committee, then probably in October or sometime around then, that specific committee is going to have an internal vote of who is going to hold those seats. Hopefully that makes sense. And if you have questions about that, throw them in the chat. Someone other than me can answer them better. So I'm going to say that I'm running for the marketing committee. And we just have two quick commitment statements that you should read through and be sure that you can fulfill these commitments. And then you have a chance to make sure that everything is correct. And if it's not, you can of course go back and change anything. But once you decide it all looks correct, go ahead and submit your candidacy. There we go. All right, so this lets us know our next step is to complete our candidate profile. To do this, head to your dashboard and click on the blue pencil to fill it out. And we can go to our dashboard real quick before I do this. So this page hasn't been refreshed yet, so you'll still notice that I do not have a dashboard button here. But once we submit, now you will have this option to go to your dashboard. That's only available for candidates. It just gives you a quick, easy way to get to your candidate dashboard. All right, so from here, I can see some quick details, see what my next steps are. The next one up is to complete the campaign page. Here it is. When did I submit it? And here is how I can edit. So I'm going to go ahead and edit. And your campaign page is public. It's visible to everyone who happens to browse to this page. You don't have to be logged in or even a member of the NSITSP in order to view it. So keep that in mind as you're filling it out. There are a couple areas that are required here, but you can always come back and make any updates you like up until the end of August. So August 31st is going to be the final day, and then they're kind of set in stone for the voting period. So one of the things that we do recommend is that you prepare your answers in a Word doc or something similar so that you can copy and paste them so that you don't lose anything. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this out mostly with some dummy text, and I am going to go ahead and copy and paste for time purposes. For your headshot, we do recommend a square image that's at least 300 by 300 pixels. I'll grab that one. Candidate statement. There's some more information about what exactly we're asking for when we say candidate statement, as well as relevant experience. And keep in mind that these little blurbs are also going to be visible to viewing members on the front end, so they know what it is you are answering. Social media links are optional. Of course, we recommend them so that others can, again, just learn a little bit more about who you are, what you stand for, what types of communities you're involved in, and things of that nature. For the additional website, this is for your business website or your blog. The hope is that you are the primary content creator, right? This should be a website that represents, again, who you are and what you stand for, and will allow people to get to know you a bit better. Organizational affiliations, go ahead and list any that are applicable to you. If you have more than one, you can continue to add as many as you are affiliated with, and you can also close them out, of course. Check any skills and experience you can bring. I'll just grab a couple at random. And if you have more that are not listed, you can, again, add more as necessary. Finally, we have a declaration of accuracy. This is just saying that everything provided here is true and correct, else you may be excused from the election process. All right, and now we submit. All right, so of course, this brings us back to our campaign dashboard. So to see our page on the front end, you can click on your name. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, the URL is nsitsp.org/candidate/my first and last name, and that's automatic. So the idea is that only professional members can run. And so this helps prevent anyone trying to run under the guise of someone else's account. And it just kind of helps to keep those processes tight. If for whatever reason you do need that updated, you won't be able to do that on your end, but you can send us a note sort of explaining what happened and why it might need to be updated. And we can do that on our end, no problem. All right, so let's click into the front end and let's see what's happened here. This is the joy of doing things live, right? All right, just 1 second. I think I need to reset permalinks. So let's actually do this. All right, do we see my page here? Yes, thank you, Carl. Okay, so this is what your page will look like on the front end. We have first and last name, some information about you, all of your social links. If for some reason you don't have one of these social accounts, maybe you don't have a Reddit account, this just simply won't show up on the front end. And it will only show exactly what you put in. You can see what committee you're running for, and then also your candidate statements. So I'd mentioned that it gives the prompts on the front end as well. This just gives some context about what your answers are explaining. And that's that. We have the organizational affiliations on the side here, and then all of the special skills that you listed as well. So that's your page. You're welcome to share that on your social media, in your blogs, email marketing, what have you, to sort of get the word out about your specific campaign. And then when you want to go see who else is running, you can go to the Meet the Candidates page. This is filled with profiles from folks who I have asked to help test the process as well. So like I mentioned before, these will all be cleared out ahead of August 1st. But I'm hoping that Carl will still choose to use his vaccination eyes photo. So these are all the candidates together. If you want to view by committee, you can just click into a filter. And then, of course, you will just see the board of directors. And then whatever other committee you like, or you can view all. At this point, vote will take you absolutely nowhere, of course, because the voting will not happen until, I should know this date off the top of my head, September 15th through 23rd is when you will actually be able to, of course, vote. If for some reason you need to stop your campaign, or if you want to switch your committee or something like that, you will also need to ask us for help to do that, which will be no problem. And the final thing that we recommend that you do is we will have an election forum up, and we suggest that you create sort of an Ask Me Anything type post so that members can start to engage with you and you can answer direct questions provide any further explanations, things of that nature. And let me just check the chat here and see if anything was related to what I've been sharing. I don't think
There are
so.
plenty of questions that we'll get to. So
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to check were any related to the process. I don't see that there are. So very good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share and I will send it back to Carl.
very good. Zoom, of course, changes everything up every time you do that. Let's see, which one of these is the PowerPoint slideshow?
I think Kari did an
Good.
excellent job at creating the election pages for us. I don't know if you guys were impressed by that, but I've been very impressed with it myself.
Thanks, Amy.
So-
I appreciate that.
So
Yeah.
let me go through a few FAQ slides that we've prepared, and then I saw tons of stuff, great questions in the chat, so we'll get to those. First of all, terms. So the goal long-term is that about a half of each body will be elected each year. So the way that we jumpstart that is that for each position, so you will run for a committee. You can only run for one. You'll run for a committee or a board. And the top 4 vote getters will serve 2-year terms. The next 3 vote getters will serve for the next year, and then will be they'll stand for re-election for a 2-year term. And then after that, everybody serves 2-year terms, but basically about half of them each year. And so the offices are the 4 committees plus the board of directors. You may run for one office at a time. And Kara covered this, but you don't actually run for the chair or secretary position, so forth. You run for the body, and then the overlap will be the month of September. Basically, people will be elected in September, and then with luck, they will try to get together with the outgoing committee as quickly as possible. In the month of October, people will begin serving their new terms. And I assume at the first meeting, you may choose not to do it at the first meeting. Committees can do whatever they want. But in October, we hope that you'll then elect your chair and so forth. These are not paid positions. Nobody has any money, so that's not an option.
Hey, I can't do video. The Digi right now they're up and down with their Wi-Fi. Okay.
All right. Somebody is talking.
Hey, what's going on? Where to start?
I am muting that. All right. So can vendors serve? Absolutely. So we have vendors on the board now. We have vendors on a few committees. We would like to have at least one vendor on each committee, and that's what I would like personally. Vendors are a key piece of this community, and we need them to be successful, and they need us to be successful. So vendor in the vendor partner program, whatever level that a vendor might choose to participate in, they would still have included in that one professional membership. They would assign who it is. So they might choose to assign it to the owner or to somebody who is a community manager or whatever. So vendors may have one seat and one vote. They have to designate who that person is. But we obviously want vendors to participate in what we do and give us their perspective. With that, I will just remind you that the election site is up there. If you have questions about any of this, send them to me, carlp@nsitsp.org. And with that, we'll go to the chat. Amy, have you been following all the chat questions? Yeah. Any good ones picked out for us?
I've been following all the chat questions and trying to, at least acknowledge them with a little response. We do have committee members here, so if you have a question about any particular committee and what they're doing and what they expect to be doing in the next year, feel free to ask those questions. The Kenneth was asking what's the date of starting? Is that October 1st or is it October something? I didn't
For the,
recall
for the
exactly.
service,
For the, when the new people begin.
yeah, basically it's in October. So whenever that committee meets the first time in October.
The first committee meeting in October. So the overlap point then is between the end of election in September and the first committee meeting in October. And we're encouraging each committee to have a meeting in between to do a kind of a transitional thing between the existing folks and the incoming members.
Yeah, it would be great if there was some, get together and overlap, even if it's just a very casual thing, just to get to know each other and sort of what have you guys been up to and so forth. Between now and then, I'm going to be preparing all kinds of introductory materials, kind of like all the stuff that the current committee members didn't get, which is welcome to the committee. Here's where things are. Here's where you find them and so forth. Maybe just like a 3 to 5 page guide, but where to find things. Steve asked, what does campaigning entail? That's kind of up to you. I mean, basically, my hope is that you'll point people to your page where you will have a well thought out statement, and then you can promote that anywhere. So if you choose to promote it on social media, just know you have to kind of point to the people who are actually members who can vote. We do have a forum set up for elections, and you can put a page there and says, hey, vote for Steve, he's the best, blah, blah, blah. And I hope that you'll be answering questions and so forth. With luck, people who want to vote will read through the statements and choose their candidates for each of the offices. With luck, we'll have 10 or 12 people running for each office. So I was very happy to see the registration for this exceed the number of open positions.
So the Amy, who is not me, asks if we have committee leaders who would give a quick pitch on what they do and what they're planning to do in the coming year. I don't know that we have them all here, but if there are any here that would want to do that, make a pitch for their committee, we could certainly unmute you and have you do that.
Yeah, Dennis met
I'll jump in.
yesterday with Nye about creating videos, and so they're moving forward on that project. Dennis, did you want to?
Yeah, just quickly, legislative committee has decided that the easiest way to communicate the kinds of things that we're doing and what we should be doing as far as legislators are concerned and such. We're going to do that in video. These will be 5 to 10 minute videos. And we are doing the first one as we speak. And so what we're looking for is our members to assist with either manufacturing these videos with the professionals at Carl's office, and or to be completing the brochures that go along with each state. And we would hope that you folks would have your state understood, so that you could easily write that into a brochure form, and we would put it up and put it and make it available to members, especially those members from your state.
We have a lot of education to do, right? So there's been some communications with state of California so far, and one of the first questions they had was like, what is an MSP, right? who are you people? What is an IT service provider? What makes you qualified? What degree do you hold? They don't know anything about us. And so the only thing they know is that their constituents are complaining about ransomware. And so they're starting to want to do something. And of course, privacy is a big issue that's out there as well. And all these things point back to who's actually providing those services, but they don't know anything about the people that provide those services because we're not licensed. We have not until now been organized in any way at all where where they or the consumers of our services can go and say, oh, those are people that I would like to do business with, or those are people that I need to talk to because I have questions about, how to make good legislation that makes sense.
So Tracy, do you want to tell us what you guys are up to?
Sure. I am the chair for the finance committee. This year's been a building year, so we did a lot of work on getting things together as far as money and how it's going to be spent. We worked a lot on the budget. We also worked on the vendor partner program a lot this year. So next year's going to look very different for this committee. We're about to go into getting budgets together for the next year's. It's our next step right now. But next year, we're going to be more involved in how money is spent. Do we have enough money? Is it being spent wisely? So we're a great committee to join if you are interested and you care about how money is spent. We have about 8 members right now, and we have a nice mix of vendors and MSP and other non-MSP owners as well. So that's kind of what we're about, is how money is spent, is it spent wisely, and then getting each of the other committees to get budgets to us is very important. That's about it.
Thank you. Andy Higgins, the marketing chair, is off in the UK, but Steve is here. Can you?
Sure,
we didn't prepare for this, but
yeah, no worries. I'll
like he
sub
gets
for
to be
Andy
invited.
today. He's off on holiday, as they say. So I would point folks to the marketing committee mission statement that's posted for details on what we hope to get done next year. Those things would include getting the messages out, creating appropriate messages for specific target audiences, whether that's MSPs or prospective members, or even assisting in the legislative contacts. And then branding. So making sure that the organization has a strong and vibrant brand that gets shared and understood by the market in general. We last year spent some time on having a branding contest, and that's going on right now. So if you haven't voted for that, get your votes over. And we meet once a month, so it's not terribly taxing. But we try to be as smart as we can to optimize the time we have to get, maximize our message. So if there are any questions out there, I'm happy to take them either on the chat or you can contact me after the call.
Very good. Thank you. Brett is not here. Somebody else from the governance committee want to step up and give us 2 minutes worth? I think Amy gave a pretty good overview. Governance committee kind of created all the other committees and sort of made the framework for everything we're up to. So, and they will, going forward, help to sort of guide the whole organization. So that's a great committee. Each of the committees meets for, ideally, once things are moving along, they will meet for once a month for about an hour. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but there's a lot of prep work. And even now, committees are sort of dividing up work and saying, hey, we need these subcommittees, go off, do this work and bring some stuff back to us. So that's a very common thing that happens. Amy and I have already spoken. Heather, do you want to talk a bit about what the board does? Also, not give an advance notice that we're going to do this. Hello.
As far as what the board does, well, we just do so much, but I think, and I hope my camera is working okay, but the board's been working on ethics, and we have an ethics committee that has been focusing on that, and developing a code of ethics. So we've been working really hard on that. That's been twice a month that we've been meeting to do do that probably again. Also, the board meets once a month. We have a great group right now, but we always want different thought leaders and different minds and different viewpoints. So yeah, if you have an interest in making a difference, this is a place to do it. I've had a great past year here in the board during this formation time, and to see where we've come in the past year has been amazing. I'm really excited for the action part of it, and want to see who else comes up to serve and be part. And you can sit on the chair and say, oh, somebody else will do it, or you can roll up your sleeves and get to work. And that's what this board and these committees are doing, is taking action and doing something. Yes, we're climbing, but we can do it together. We can't do it if we just sit in the sidelines and say, well, that looks like a really big mountain. We need to get on those hiking boots and gear up for a big climb. But we can certainly do it. We have a lot of great minds. MSPs, we're vendors, and I'm excited to be able to be a vendor and also a board member. But the MSPs I've talked to have these skills that are needed. Thinking about legislation, it's a personality and making connections, and that's what guys do. So get involved, sideline thinking, oh, maybe this isn't for me, maybe I don't have the skills. Yes, you are. Get in here and get fighting with us.
Excellent. Thank you. So speaking of climbing the big mountain, Howard says perhaps there should be a regional or sub-regional committees because there's so much work to do. And I would say, I point to the legislative committee. They have just an amazing and almost overwhelming amount of work to do, because eventually, they're going to have some presence in every state, and they're looking at educating lobbyists, legislators, the media. I mean, it's the small businesses that talk to the legislators, so forth and so on. So there's plenty of work to be done, and I expect that piece of the organization will grow and mature as we sort of, as Amy said, start going from organizing to actually producing, and we're actually doing that now, even though it's just the middle of the year. Amy, did you see another question?
Yeah. So there's a question about if there's a link that lists what the committees are defined as, and I just asked Cara to post that up. So there it is. So nsitsp.org/committees. If you click that link, each of the committees this year worked on creating a charter for their committee, what their goals are, what their potential blockers for achieving that goal is, what their needs are. So we tried to make it a really nice holistic view of what the committee's purpose is. So please go ahead and click on those, and you'll get all the details of what the committee believes their function is.
Tony asks why you're having people sign up for particular positions rather than get elected and then have the people choose. So the reason that it's organized this way is basically it's sort of a nod to the bottom up organization that I don't even know if we specifically discussed it. We just started doing it, that committees are in charge of their membership, and also the board is in charge of its membership. So they get to choose who their chairs are, rather than having people run for specific positions, because it might be that somebody will choose not to be a chair after the first year. They're like, all of their hair's been pulled out and they're just like done with it, but they still want to serve on a committee. So anyway, that's a committee.
Yeah,
we do something different. Go ahead.
In the forming of this organization, the board took a long time to discuss the failings of other organizations that we've been members of, what caused them not to be successful, what and some in industry, some outside the industry, just how we could best function. And our goal really is to make sure that all members have equal voice. So that if you're a vendor or a really large MSP or a one person MSP, that your voice is still heard and is still equivalent to everyone else's. And in order to do that, we decided one of the ways was that committees are going to be really in charge of themselves, with the governance committee being sort of their overarching um, group that is going to kind of, make sure they're completing their charter, that they're doing the things that they said they were going to do, and that. So that's a really important piece of how this organization chose to organize itself.
True. And I got a direct message from somebody who says maybe there are some jobs that you want to exclude vendors from, like chairman of the board. So I believe that we agreed, and it's up to the governance committee to verify this, but I believe we agreed that the vendors would not be a majority of any committee. But we don't really have that many active vendors, so that it's a concern right now. But the reality is that if the committee decides that they want to do that, they can. Now, if you've got a committee of 7 and one of them is a vendor, I don't think that they're going to be pushing their weight around too much. So today, I would say that's not an issue. We are fundamentally an IT service provider organization, not a vendor organization, but we clearly need vendors to be successful. So again, it's not an issue so far, but it's something to keep in mind. And there may be more guidance down the road, but right now it hasn't been a problem. And to be honest, I have to say, and I'll just shout out to Heather and also Ray Orsini, who was on one of the committees for a while. Those are 2 examples of vendors who have just been tremendous contributors to this organization. So we appreciate it.
I don't see any other questions in the chat. So if you do have questions, go ahead and pop them in there.
Yeah, and you can just open your mic and ask. The other thing is, if you're concerned a bit about who we are and what we do for a living, the About page at NSITSP.org lists our mission, vision, and values, which the board, I'm just going to let my old brain try to remember, worked on for about 4 months, I think. Might be longer, but that was a huge endeavor. And Larry Mandelberg led us in that and did a spectacular job. So there's that. And I think that the mission, vision, and values are actually a really good representation of who we are and what we want to be. We want to be the voice of the industry, and we want to increase professionalism and the integrity of people in our industry. It's funny, there's questions I see. I've almost thought about writing a blog post called The Reddit of the Week, where people say things like, I don't know why we need standards. I don't know why we need to have all these things that keep people out of the industry. I don't know why we need professionalism. Who are these people? And I'm like, okay, so you might not be our ideal member, but we do need professionalism. And the people who say, well, I've been in your business for 20 years, you have nothing to teach me about professionalism. Okay, that might be true. You may do everything right, but you live in an environment where people are signing contracts and not delivering the services that they provided or that they promised that they would provide. So, there really is a need for integrity and professionalism in this industry. And a handful of people have told me this has been one of their passions for years. And so I'm glad that those people are getting involved.
One of my goals is that well, first let me say, I think this organization has gotten the reputation of mainly caring about legislation. But one of my goals really is truly to help the consumer decide. If I have an issue with my car, I'm able to tell the difference between the guy that works at the oil change shop and a certified mechanic. if I'm a consumer of IT services, I'm not able to tell the difference between different IT people. I have to sort of take their word for it. I don't have an organization that might be, able to provide some input on it. I don't have really any information as a consumer as to the reputation and the likelihood that I'm going to get good service from a particular company or individual. And so it is one of my goals for this organization that we provide the consumers with better information about who they're doing business with and what their capabilities and their professionalism is.
Very good. Other questions or comments from folks? I'm hoping that you're all going to run, so prep those statements now so you can copy and paste them when the time comes. And so one of the questions was about whether if people make comments on a forum, would you be able to get an email? And Kara answered it in the chat, but yes, if you log into the forum and then you check the box that says subscribe to this forum, you will get emails at the email that you are logged in as.
Carl?
Yeah.
This is Larry. I just wanted to make a comment real quick. This question about why we exist is massive, and I think it's really core, foundational to who we are and what we do. I think it describes everything about why I'm here. And while I'm not an MSP, obviously my life is embroiled in technology. And this issue of not being able to really properly evaluate good versus bad vendors is everywhere in the world, whether you're hiring a contractor or an IT person or a lawyer or an accountant. And I just want to emphasize the vision. The NSITB is the voice of the industry, defining the standards for professionalism in IT services. And that's why I'm here. And I think that the way my elevator pitch for this is making the industry more professional, which is, in my way of thinking, a metaphor for better, making it a better industry. And whatever we have to do to make that happen is what we want to do with the help of the industry. So I just wanted to put that out there.
You're here. So again, I'm not sure why this person, maybe it's accidentally sending to me directly instead of to everybody, but comment that we're trying to do something at a time when there's so much distrust of experts and governments and outside companies wanting to load consequences onto others. Yes, these are difficult times, but the reality is our industry, certainly less than 100 years old, somewhere around 60 or 70 years old. For most of us, it really took off in the 90s. And so, at 20 or 30 years old, the SMB IT industry is really just now mature enough to say, we are going to be a profession. We are going to step up, and we're going to have some barriers. We're going to say, look, we need you to be professional if you want to be in this industry. You can no longer just put your name on a laser perf business card and go take care of $3 million computer systems. You need to be a professional, and that, we're not selling training. We're not selling advertising. We're here to set standards, and it's a long, difficult road, and we will not be done next year or the year after. This is an undertaking that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort. So, and to be honest, I congratulate everybody on this call because you are clearly interested, and I think most or all of you are willing to participate, and I think that's huge, and I think that speaks to our future success, that we have so many people who are sincerely interested in the industry as an industry. So thank you for being here.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah.
I understand another compelling reason this organization exists is to help influence and shape the developing regulations in our industry and try to prevent the nightmare of folks that still refer to the Internet of Tubes as being those that create the rules that manage or govern this space. I think that's easily as important as the other goal. They should be related, of course. And I know that there's a legislative committee. What I don't know is how to actually find the right people to address and how to address them in my own particular large but small state. Do we have a group of people or anyone who has insight into that? If I were to
Well,
join that committee?
Dennis may, or others, Ted or others on the legislative committee may have something to contribute on that front, but it is one of the big chores of the legislative committee is that someday, like, again, building this infrastructure of talking to MSPs and saying, how do you get to know people in the legislature? How do you build those relationships before an issue comes up? Because we don't know where and when, but we do know, that there will be a bill introduced somewhere, and we don't exist solely to lobby, but someday we will be called on to give our position on a piece of legislation. And the sooner people build those relationships, the easier it will be to participate in that conversation. Because ultimately, we have not built in the 50 years or so, we have not built a seat for ourselves at the table. And so this is the beginning of that process.
So another thing that occurs to me, and you know a lot about how CompTIA at one time believed that they were involved in lobbying and stepped away from it. At first, when I heard of this organization, it felt like the goal of being part of this would be stepping on the toes of CompTIA until I remembered, they don't do this. But we talked about, let's call it a mark of excellence or some sort of certification. CompTIA has a trust mark, which at least is supposed to be this concept. It's supposed to be a demonstration of your excellence, or at least your adequacy in the field. Is anybody in this group looking at what those kind of overlaps might be between that trust mark and what we want to achieve?
There should be zero overlap, Josh, because this
Okay.
organization isn't going to certify anybody. We're not going to teach anybody. What we're going to do is what the, say, for example, the AICPA does, requires a certain amount of continuing education requirements in order to be a member of that organization. And then that way, again, the consumer knows, am I dealing with a bookkeeper? Am I dealing with somebody who's not participating at all? Am I dealing with somebody who is an EA? Am I dealing with a CPA? Right. And so, and those are the types of differentiations. We will not be the people that are providing that. So CompTIA continues to provide their trust marks. Great. You can add that to your profile here and check that off as some of your continuing education efforts.
I guess my point was not that we would offer as an organization something competitive, but that we might identify that trust mark or as something that would be appropriate along the lines of demonstrating your capabilities. Maybe say that you come up with some sort of framework for what would qualify as a demonstration of the professionality of an organization.
So I am working with some folks at CompTIA specifically to talk about how we can work together. They are very open to working with us, and in particular also looking at things where we might have some stuff in common with regard, because they have stepped away from lobbying, but they may want to take a position on some things that represent the needs of their membership. And so they want to partner with us with regard to those. So we are in a friendly relationship with CompTIA and working on building more of that.
So Josh, the way that I think that might work with the trust mark as your example there that you brought up is that the governance committee would assign a certain number of continuing education credits to that trust mark. type of thing.
Okay, understood. I don't know if we can get away with calling them CEUs, but I know what you mean. We can come up with some sort of metric, and that might satisfy some or all of that requirement.
And
Yeah,
why would there would be an issue with us calling them whatever we want?
I think the continuing education units, there are requirements to offer something that's called that because they are specific to certain industries. I don't know if we can call them CEUs, but we can call them qualifying points or something. Are you going to talk to the folks at ChannelCon about this while you're there, Carl?
Oh, I'm talking to them weekly. So,
Okay.
so I'm sure I'll talk to them there also.
I'll go with you. Maybe we can even talk to them strongly. Thank you.
I mean, there's absolutely no lack of educational opportunities in this industry, right? So we're definitely not going to reinvent the wheel on that one.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, and I don't know if MJ's on here. He could speak up if he is. MJ Shore is the community outreach manager at CompTIA. So, but yeah, and you know, one of our longtime community friends, actually, most of our longtime community friends are on the board of CompTIA. So we have plenty of connections there. Other comments, questions? I would love to have everybody, you know, go find the reaction button and raise your hand if you think you might run. I'd love to see all the little hands fly up. Oh, and now people are leaving.
Way to go. Just make everybody upset and have them all leave.
So, oh, well, it is what it is.
Now that Jay's here, I'm going to have to call it a day. Hey, Jay.
What's happening, brother?
Hey, nice to hear you. So I'm going to head out for an 11 o'clock, but this was good. I didn't really understand this structure, and I don't understand more. I can play around online. I'm not sure where I might fit in, but I hope to. And I'll talk with you at ChannelCon, if not before. Thanks.
Very good. Well, you're all welcome to email me. It's just, you know, carlp@nsitsp.org or Amy or whoever. All of the board members.
Amy@thirdtier.net.
Yeah, all the board members are on the site. So if you go to the About page, and you'll see the committee members and the board members, and talk to folks who are already in here and ask them what their experience is. Oh, and thank you for the links on social media. I appreciate that. So, oh, also, yeah, we have 1 minute left. Our next meeting, August 10th, is the all-member meeting where we're going to talk about many things, but it will include these elections. So that link will be at the top of your browser window at nsitsp.org almost immediately.
Carl, I think that's our 6-month window for vision, mission, and values as well.
Oh, excellent.
So we had talked about putting this out for feedback, and if anyone has any comments that they think we need to make changes or adjustments, we wanted to let the organization live with them for 6 months before we formalize them. So that's, I think that's what we're scheduled for August there too.
Excellent. Great. I will add that to the agenda. Very good. Well, as was noted, it's the top of the hour. So I appreciate you all being here. Amy's got her email in the chat as well. Let us know if you need anything, and I will see you at the next all-member meeting. Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for attending.